Begin now. Welcome all distinguished alums who have come here tonight for this event. All of you are still distinguished in our minds. Welcome faculty, staff, and students, and members of the broader community that are here. And we thank you all for being here tonight. This is the middle of a really momentous series of years for us because last year, this year, and next year we are up for 3 different accreditations. And last year was our NAAB, our architectural accreditation, and we got 8 full years, the maximum you can get, which is really good for all you architectural alums. Let's applaud that. And thank you all for helping us to get it. Many of you exhibited in our faculty exhibit and the like. And we were cited on an inordinate number of the criteria with distinction. Was it 7 or 8, Scott? 7 with distinction, and they recommend 3 or 4 maximum. We got 7 with distinction, which is really cool. This year, and it's next week, we are getting ready for our CETA accreditation, which is for interior architecture. And if you see people that are frazzled or running around, this is why they are doing it. And then this year we're also beginning our report that has to be turned into our NASAT accreditors, and that's for our fine arts programs, all of our programs in design. So really a busy time for us here at the school. I want to just report to you on a special Distinguished Architectural Alums project, which is the renovation of Affleck House. For many of you, you know Affleck House is the Frank Lloyd Wright House that is owned by our college. And the Distinguished Architectural Alums Committee that is charged with that is getting ready for the completion of the kitchen renovation this fall. And we're really anxious about it. All new appliances, refurbishment of the cabinets, some additional cabinets, new countertops. Really, the place will be will have completely a different look when you go in it by Christmas time, hopefully. I want to just talk about some people who have been really diligent in this effort. Ben Tizio, Fred Butters, Javi Ferraro, Jim Ryan, and our faculty and staff, Janice Means, Dale Geyer, Dan Farrow, Jane McBride, and Brian Raymond have been very diligent in pursuing this and working with the committee. So I think, oh, Deirdre, where's Deirdre? Deirdre, I forgot about your name. Sorry, Deirdre. Where are you? I'm going to have you stand up, Deirdre. That's Deirdre, and she has been very active in doing this. So let's applaud all of our distinguished alums. Thank you, Ben. Fred Butters led the fundraising program in many ways by the creation of the Affleck House pens that are a series of 100 pens that were made from the wood taken from Affleck House. We had some split lumber that we removed and replaced, and he crafted these beautiful pens. For those of you that haven't seen them, Ben has one, and it is the only one left. 99 of these pups have been sold already, so it's our last pen. So if you want to get it while it's hot, we have one more Affleck House pen left. Ben Tizio and Fred and others have been busy clearing the site of years of invasive and unwanted vegetative growth, and it's a really big task. And Deirdre has been involved in that too. Sorry, Deirdre, I keep on forgetting you. You have to sit in the front so I can see you. Now we have a community-based volunteer group that will continue to develop the landscaping of the home. And tonight, the reason we are here is for a presentation of the Distinguished Architectural Alumnus Award to a good friend of ours, Gina Van Tine. Gina is one of the first architects that I met when I arrived at LTU nearly 10 years ago. Almost all of you know the well-deserved reputation of her firm, but I want to praise her unwavering support for the college over the years. She has always been there for us, and particularly for our students. The selection committee and the architectural alumni chapter did a great job this year in their selection of Gina. I would like to now call on Tracy Sweeney, AIA, lead AP, BD plus C, or at least that's what your resume says, You can explain what all those things are. I think I know what they are. Anyway, she is the chair of the Architecture and Design Cabinet of the LTU Alumni Association to introduce our programs. Tracy.
Good evening. You guys can just call me Tracy, okay? We'll just stick with that. I'm glad to see everyone here. We want to welcome back, especially the alumni, particularly during homecoming week. It's a special time here. But remember that homecoming week isn't the only time that you should be coming back to campus. Much of what we do as an alumni cabinet has to do with shared connections and stories. Briefly, if you're not aware, before I get into introducing Gina, which I'll do in just a minute, I wanted to talk about in addition to the DAA award that we're celebrating tonight, we also tell the stories of the Pellerin Traveling Fellowship Award winners. And for those that don't know, that's a traveling fellowship awarded to a distinguished graduate student. Christopher Davis will be giving his lecture on November 13th, and we hope that you can plan to join us for that as well. There are lots of ways that you can give back and that you can spend time here at the university. Glenn has mentioned what's going on at the Affleck House. There's so many other things going on, but tonight we appreciate that you're here to share your time to help us celebrate the contributions of an amazing architect and person, Gina Van Tine. And that brings us to the moment that we've all been waiting for. You need look no further than your program to have a sense for Gina's significant professional accomplishments since graduating from Lawrence Tech. A founder of 2 firms, an active member of the AIA as AIA Detroit board member for 12 years, secretary of the AIA Detroit board, and COAT committee member for 2 years. An active participant here at LTU, including 6 years on our alumni cabinet. Presentations and panels, and volunteer services and advisory boards. It's a wonder that she has any time at all for design work. The beautiful, insightful, powerful design work that's been widely published and frequently recognized by her peers. The time for design competitions entered and won. As if all of that were not enough to bring her up to this stage tonight, it's important to me that you understand who Gina is as a person and that she's meant so much to so many of us. I first met Gina years ago, we will not say how many, in my committee work with AIA. When I made a recent career move, Gina was one of the people I felt I could reach out to for wisdom, counsel, and understanding. And she's never made me feel that she was too busy to offer those things. When we reviewed the award submissions this year, they really drove home for me the fact that she's done this not just for me, but for many. One of the nomination letters pointed out, from the inception of Inform Studio in 2000, Gina has played a significant role in fostering 4 AIA Young Architect of the Year recipients, all of whom are graduates from Lawrence Technological University. I'm sure you'll agree that 4 in just 14 years is a pretty good track record. Another letter really got to the heart of who Gina is and how she makes a difference by her example. And I'd like to share an excerpt of that letter with you tonight. When I look back at my career, Gina's influence on it has been profound. Her honesty and integrity in both personal and professional relationships were and continue to be a model for the way I approach personal and professional relationships. Gina's passion for architecture and for doing a great job from the first line on paper to the last nail in the wall instilled in me the same commitment to do great work for clients. She taught all of us in the office what to draw and what not to draw, to keep our heads about ourselves on the crazy days, and to laugh together and build strong, lasting friendships. To this day, those of us that worked for Gina still have strong connections with her and with each other. Considering the role Gina had on my career by being who she was during those early formative years, makes me realize how blessed I was to be with such a special group of people. With that, I'd like to welcome Gina Van Tine to join me on stage to receive the 2014 Distinguished Architecture Alumni Award.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't know what to say about all that. That was crazy. I have to tell you, though, that this whole thing started out for me as a very sneaky endeavor, because I had no idea that the guys at the office had conspired behind my back to nominate me and to put the whole thing together and submit it without my knowledge. And I even went so far as to mess up the whole ruse that Scott had put together on having lunch with me to let me know that I had won, by having a client call me the night before and say, well, you're going to be in town tomorrow, right? And I said, oh, sure. So I was busy putting together a flight, and I completely forgot about my lunch with Scott. Well, a half an hour before, I'm texting Corey, and I'm like, Corey, you've got to get a hold of Scott and call and let him know that I'm in Chicago and I can't make lunch. And I don't know what ended up happening, but I ended up getting a video of Ben and Kathleen, and Alan, I think, was there, and Scott, and everybody congratulating me on winning as a text message, and I felt like this big. So that was a really odd way for this to start, in my opinion, you know. But thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate it. It's amazing to see so many people here, and so many people I haven't seen in a while. But it's really good to see everybody, and thank you. I appreciate all the nice, kind words that everybody has said. Excuse me. I want to go through just a couple of things here with you tonight. I'm going to make this short and relatively painless, I think. I want to talk a little bit about what we've been doing, because this is not only about me. This is not an individual effort. This is totally a group effort that we've been able to do some really nice work over the years. And you can see some of the people that have been involved, and you can kind of tell we've been a little bit busy over the last year and a half. In fact, we've doubled the size of our office over the last year and a half, and all those great people have joined us. We've had quite a few other people in here during the years. We've had people leave and come and go for different and various reasons. I can tell you right now, though, thankfully, we've never had to lay anybody off. Even during the downtimes, we've been very fortunate in that regard. And I think everybody that has worked for us has been able to go on to bigger and better things, and it's been really a great opportunity for us to work with some of the greatest people around. We have a lot of these people still with us. You can see some of the people are kind of been around a while. So we won't go into that necessarily, but you can see over the years we've been able to do some really interesting things. This project here, I don't know if this is going to work. There we go. This project here, that was the first competition we ever entered, and we won. So we could only go downhill from there. We've entered a few others since then. We entered the Grand Egyptian Museum competition here. As you can see, that was in 2003. We did pretty well there. Out of over 1,500 entries, we were able to be shortlisted into the top 20. And then we made it, we were just outside the top 10. But we got to present in Cairo. That was interesting and very cool. So that was fun. Since then, we've been able to do some work for Detroit Public Schools, the Children's Museum, the Thornapple Valley, the whole district down there, that project. A recording studio that was done for this guy he was a great client, was an engineer, recording engineer, and he ended up selling his recording studio to M&M about 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. So it's still being used. It's interesting. I have no idea what it looks like now. That could be a very interesting idea. This is our office currently. We're in the Water Wheel building down in downtown Northville. We moved there in 2007, and we were in a small little space in downtown Northville, which hardly anybody could find. We were on the 3rd floor of a chocolate store, which was very detrimental to everybody in the office. They were terrible because if business was slow, they would start making homemade caramel corn and open all the doors and windows. So that was a really hard place to be. But this is our space now. This is an old Albert Kahn Ford factory. We love this spot. It's a great place to have an office. You can see the factory sash windows back here. A lot of you are familiar with the Ann Arbor Public Library the branch library that we did up on the north end of Ann Arbor. Some of you aren't quite as familiar maybe with the design that we did for the Myrtle Beach Airport. We did that back in '09. And then the bridge finally got finished. See how much they look alike? I mean, it was crazy. We started this project, and it went all haywire because of 9/11. But we ended up having a cable stay bridge instead. This is the second competition entry that we ever won. This was back in 2010, the Providence River Pedestrian Bridge. And then we've got some new work over here that I'll get into a little bit at the end. So we're going to kind of fly through this stuff. Some of our work, well, actually a lot of our work for the first decade or so that we were in business was adaptive reuse. This is an old Detroit Edison substation south of the Fisher Building that we redid for the Detroit Public School Children's Museum. And this hadn't been inhabited for quite a long time. I don't remember how long, actually. So this is what it looked like when we got it. And then this is the reception desk here. They came to us and they said, this is great. We're going to have the New Center Council meeting here. And we would like you guys to design some exhibits. And we said, okay, that's great. We would love to do that. And they said, yeah, you've got 6 weeks. So we said, well, maybe we can get one done. And this is what we started doing. And we started designing, and we started going through drawings, and we started piecemealing it out to the contractors. And we said, okay, you're going to have to do this. And they said, well, what are we building? We said, we don't know yet. So we came up with this piece here. This was the first piece. We got this done before the New Center Council meeting, and then we ended up doing 3 other pieces back through the main area of the gallery. This is the finished piece here. We came up with a touch screen piece that you can see right in here. And we were putting the finishing touches on that as people were coming in for the meeting. It was crazy. But you know, software never works the way you want it to when you need it. These are some of our study models and just our conceptual plans. We still believe very heavily in actually doing hand-built models. It really helps us understand what we're trying to achieve and how things really work and need to come together, how the details need to happen. I remember sitting in the office and we were talking about this piece, and I said, okay, this is great, you guys, but they want to use this whole gallery piece as an event space. And if this piece doesn't move and go back against the wall, you're not going to have enough room for a gallery space. And Mike kind of looked at me and he said, well, you're right, but I don't know how the heck we're going to do that. So that was kind of one of our first pieces, trying to figure out how to make something come in budget and actually work with the space that we had. With the contractors, we kept working and working and really trying to get it to move. It's not easy to move necessarily, but it actually does work. The next piece we did for Detroit Public Schools was the old Thornapple Valley district. This was, I don't know if this happens to everybody, but this happens to us every so often. Projects kind of like grow organically for us. This started out as one building. That was all we were going to do. And if this isn't urban blight, I don't know what is. But we had to go down, and thankfully I wasn't part of this, but they had to go down and field measure this, and they had to put rubber bands around their pant legs so that the rats wouldn't roll up, climb up their pants. But this place was, this is the first building over here. The second building was here. There we go. The big warehouse building here. This was a slaughterhouse, I believe, and this was a processing plant. And then we actually ended up doing this third building here as well. And they're all very, glorious buildings. They're all business, I mean, they're all maintenance hubs for Detroit Public Schools, but we had fun doing them. This is exactly what we came up with, or this is what we saw when we actually drove up. We came up with the idea to try to intervene in this space as a real heavy, deep floor plate, try to give people a sense of place by natural light and that type of thing. We had a hard sell trying to explain to DPS that they didn't need to do a vanilla box here. What they really needed to do was just go back to the original materials, or at least try to replace the original materials and create a space that would really work for people and be a much better space for people to inhabit. And you can see we actually got to the roof deck up here. We were able to replace that instead of using a lot of lay-in ceilings and that type of thing. Wayfinding over being able to figure out where you were by looking up and looking for the restrooms. It tried to help that a little bit. But this is the second building here. This was going to be the Central Distribution Center, and we call this our Beirut photo. This is exactly what happened there. And this building was kind of a mystery wrapped in an enigma. Every time they opened a wall, we would find a new space. And just trying to photo document and actually measure this space was unbelievable. We had a crazy time doing this project. But we came up with an idea. I don't remember who came up with the idea on how to try to organize the exterior. And trying to take this into something that would be actually workable with polygal and metal panels, and trying to make sure that people understood. Actually, this is the most interesting thing about this transformation of this area was the DEA used to be in this area. I think they were right across the street. And after all of this development was done and all the people moved into this area, the DEA moved out because it was too habitable. So they said it was, they said they needed to be more obscure. You can kind of see how bad things really got. But this ended up being a multi-tenant building, food service, environmental services, the CDC, central distribution. So everything comes through here, textbooks, all that kind of stuff. Came up with the same kind of concept for the interior as well, trying to make sure that people could find their way around. And organize the space. So it's pretty open, but there were a number of different levels. Excuse me. This is the Grand Egyptian Museum project. The competition that we entered, you can see it's got a great view of the pyramids of Giza. This was a very interesting time for us. This was when we were doing the Thornapple Valley project, so we were extremely busy. But we decided we really wanted to do this. This is actually the pieces to our first stage submittal. So we had a number of prescribed pieces that we had to put together. The idea about this is very interesting to me, so I'm going to take a second and explain this to you. This was not our idea. This was in the program, actually. They wanted to try to see if a physical manifestation of a hyperlink would actually work. And so what we came up with was an idea on how to do that visually. And the entire museum is made up of ramps. And that was our idea on how to figure out how to take all of these different pieces that they prescribed to us and make sure that they were interwoven. And you could actually go through this museum. In our minds, it would have worked. I guess that we'll never know. But you could go through this museum by yourself without a guide. And you would have different nodes and different points of interest that would take you, and you could go in between. You wouldn't have to stay all in Kingshipton State or whatever, but it would work so you could go through it yourself. This was actually our model. That's in the, that's not finished, but that's in the museum in Cairo on permanent exhibit as one of the top 20 finalists. I'm gonna have to pick up speed here. Sorry about that. But this is our finished model. Some of you may be familiar with the Ann Arbor District Library. This was probably a project that really put us on the map. I think we've gotten more public mileage out of this than any project we've ever done. This, we started out with the Ann Arbor library director. And we actually got this project because of the Grand Egyptian Museum. She was so intrigued with what we had done there that she said, I think if you guys can think like that, I think you're the right architects for us. So we convinced them that we needed to do some research. And this was the first time that anybody had ever actually paid us to do research. We went through their material, how they moved information from branch to branch back to the main. We looked at all of their material, what it ended up being, and got a real handle on how things needed to work. We came up with some ideas about how to move material for them, and it saved them a lot of money. We actually showed them by employing this model that they really didn't have to do that next branch that they were talking about, so we talked ourselves out of a job there. But we were actually able to see where people from the entire Ann Arbor area, how they came to the library and what they came to see. Excuse me. This project was, we thought we were really going to get into trouble with this project. This is a completely greenfield site in Ann Arbor. I mean, you don't get more activists than Ann Arbor. And trying to build on a site that has never been built on before was just, we thought we were going to be in for a really long fight. But we were able to see that there was a lot of scarring on the edge of the site and convinced the library that we needed to hug that corner. And we never really had any problem. The NIMBY people and all those people came to our meetings, but we really never had too much trouble with them. You can see some of the conceptual sketches here for how we looked at the project. We really wanted to create a hard edge there and try to make sure that people understood that project was really going to create a place of space there on the street. We tried to convince the library that all the underground parking would be enough, but they required us to do a little bit more there. This is the finished model down here. We have that in the office. But this project, the funny story about this project is that the people in Ann Arbor are very vocal. So when the library opened, what happened was not just the site was scarred. Let me go back for a second. But the ash trees were so prevalent on this site that we had to take a bunch of them down. And in doing that, we were able to clear a fair amount of land. But we wanted to use those ash trees. And in fact, Corey's done quite a few panel discussions. And in fact, he was just at Greening the Heartland in Chicago talking about how to use the wood that's actually still good. Even though you're not supposed to transport it across state lines or anything, you can actually use the wood. And so what we did was we had this crazy man who did the flooring, and we had talked to him about this. He actually chopped them all down by hand and pulled them out with draft horses. He really got into this. And there was this isn't just like a news guide, but there's a documentary on this project. It's very interesting. We got a grant from the U.S. Forestry. But we used the trees structurally, and then also he milled a bunch of the wood, and we were able to use that on the interior as well. Obviously, construction photos here. But so the story about the trees here was that there was this lady that commented on the library's website. And she said, I don't know what the architect was thinking. This is so ugly. They should be hung from the highest limb of one of these ugly, crooked trees. So we've kept that, in our archives. We go back to that every so often because it's like, you think you're doing really good work, and then you have some lady say something like that, and you're like, oh yeah, not everybody really likes what we do. But this is. I mean, I know he was crazy and he was really hard to work with, but he's amazing. I mean, anybody that can do this kind of work is just really talented artist, in my opinion. So we used the flooring, we used the wood for the flooring, the walls, the ceiling. We used it in the laptop bar as well. This is this is the adult reading area here, and this is called Raining Ash here. But he's just a really talented guy. This is our office. little bit more about the building there. It was built in the early 30s and turned into a multi-tenant building about 15 years ago now, I think. So it's become a design building, which is really weird. HKS is next door to us. We're in there, McKenna Associates is in there, the planners, and we've got a marketing and branding guy that's in there. We had an interiors firm, but now we've got a bioengineering firm or something like that across the hall. So it's become a very interesting place, but we love it here. This is a great place to have an office, tons of natural light, faces north, of course. And this is just a great place. We have our foosball table and our hockey table too. We play hockey there. We have a couple Canadians, you can tell. But the idea here was that we actually moved quite a bit of our furniture and some of the pieces from our other office. This whole side here, we moved from down the street and then created a few other interventions here. But when we moved in 2007, that's when everything got really quiet and very slow here. So we got very nervous, but what happened was we were approached by a firm down in Myrtle Beach, and this older gentleman was looking for some designers. And long story short, we were going to merge with him. We moved our partner Mike down south and his family and hired some people and moved them down as well. The whole thing fell apart, but we hadn't signed any papers yet. We got this project out of it, the Myrtle Beach International Airport. We've also got some other work there as well. So we're not down there anymore. We closed that office in June, but we're still doing work down there, and it definitely wasn't a failed enterprise. This is something that we've been doing a lot of over the last few years. When the economy gets slow, I think one of the things that we thought about was making ourselves good partners and kind of branching out into other areas. So one of the things that we'd been doing was working with Corey's brother in Chicago, and that was probably our first project. And then we got this one on our own, the urban design project for the Withers Swash, which is down on the south end of Myrtle Beach. And then this project is, this never really happened, but this was actually a project in North Carolina, sorry. And we designed 7 parcels in about 3 weeks. But this is right across the way from the Lowe's headquarters. So we've been, looking at different ways to make ourselves better partners. We're WBE certified. We were the sustainable, one of the projects I don't have in here, I forgot about it, was the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center that we did with, what is the name of that company? BBH Design, sorry, thank you. And we were the sustainability consultants on that project. So we came up with a skin for the building that performed at a very high level. We also actually were able to affect the design of the site quite a bit. But you guys probably know this project. This is the first competition entry that we ever won. The Bagley pedestrian bridge downtown, or down in southwest Detroit. This project was a little bit, I think, doomed from the start. MDOT projects are kind of like that. The engineers told us, they're like, yeah, the last MDOT project we did took 20 years, and we're like, oh my gosh, you're kidding me. We're like, there's no way. There's no way it'll take that long. Well, then 9/11 happened and everything went on hold. So, by the time Homeland Security kind of got in place and everything like that, they came back to us and they said, okay, you guys, here's the deal. We can't build what you designed originally, so you can't land on the freeway at all. And we're like, what do you mean we can't land on the freeway at all? Yeah, you're going to have to span the entire freeway. And we're like, well, I don't understand. Are you kidding? So finally, there was one spot where they allowed us to land, and we came up with an idea for a cable stay bridge, which, we're nobody, right? And we're doing a cable stay bridge, and Calatrava's doing them all over the world, and we're just like, oh my gosh. But this was our model, and we underlit it so that they could see what we wanted to do with the lights across the bridge. But this thing changed so many times. It was unbelievable. Some of the renderings that we have here, and then this opened in 2010, I think. I think it actually only ended up taking 12 years. So it was amazing, but that, you know, we're not used to that. We're a small firm. Our projects run through the office in a year or less, and this project was around for a very, very long time. But that's the end product there. It opened on Cinco de Mayo, of course. This project, this was kind of funny. We entered the Providence Pedestrian Bridge project, and they held a public forum for it. They posted everything online. They hung everything in like the city hall or something, I don't remember, for weeks and weeks, and let people comment. And we got into it for so long where we would go onto the website every day and see what people were saying about all the entries. And man, I'll tell you, people really hated our entry. It was amazing. And there was some really nasty things said. But this actually, what happened here was that, was it 196 or something like that? Anyway, a freeway used to come across here, and RIDOT, which that should have warned us right there. I don't know why we were thinking of working for another DOT. But anyway, they left. They said, okay, Providence, if you'll let us leave the piers in the ground here, or in the water rather, we'll give you $1 million or something like that. And so Providence said, okay, that's great. You can leave them, and we'll do a pedestrian bridge across there, because really what happens is this connects downtown to Brown and RISD on the other side. So we were really, actually, after reading all those nasty entries and stuff like that, we were really shocked that we won. So this project is about 95% done CDs right now. And, you know, we were, this is some of the stuff that people said. The Hummer of designs. You like that? It's like, oh my gosh, there goes our sustainability credibility. Holy cow. But it's kind of funny to read people's comments in real time almost as you're looking at, you know, trying to win a competition. This project here was another adaptive reuse project for us. The client came to us and said, look, we want to create a center for people to be retrained. You can tell kind of when this was. This was about 2008, 2009. And they said, we've got a lot of people out of work in Detroit, and we think that they can be trained in a facility that would teach them, you know, new jobs so that they could get back out into the workforce. So we came up with this idea. This was going to be a platinum LEED project. And we showed them what our idea was, and they went out and tried to get funding, and I don't know, it's never gone anywhere, unfortunately. But this was a fun project. We were able to do a lot of interesting things and looking at all the different ideas on how to create sustainability right into this. And they were going to try to teach people sustainable jobs. So we looked at you know, all the ventilation, the light use, everything. It was very interesting. So now I know some people have probably been wondering what we've been up to lately. We haven't made any kind of foray into public built work lately, but this is a project that we're working on now, 505 North Capitol. This is for Lansing Community Center. They have an existing building that they wanted to turn into a building for their art students, and it's right across the street from the president's house, and so he really wanted, and he's a real architectural devotee, so he really wanted something cool. And he said, I want you guys to go all out. Well, you know, that's what you get when you tell us that. So we're doing some work for Jeff Cawley up at Cawley Ferrari, looking at a couple of either an addition or possibly a brand new building for him, creating a new space there for really, really, really expensive cars. And I was telling some of you while we were standing out in the reception that we were approached by Living Lab a landscape and design firm in Detroit about doing work on the Grand River public space. This is our piece of the project. They call this the hub. And this has gone from, remember I told you the story about projects grow organically for us? Well, we got involved and they said, okay, we're looking for a temporary structure. And we said, okay, no problem. And then we started getting into it. And the next thing we heard through the, we're not the prime on the project. We're actually a subcontractor to them. And they said, well, we met with DTE again and they don't want to make it a temporary project or a temporary facility. And we're like, okay. So, and we said, all right, we can do that. So we started looking at it, and then they came to us and they said, they love this. The project budget was 1.5, now it's $6 million. And they want this to be not only permanent, but they want to enclose it. And we're like, oh my gosh, how the heck are we going to do that? So we're working on that right now, but this is that's the rendering for the space. So you can see kind of where it's located. I forgot the other streets, I'm sorry. Grand River. And then we're doing some work at the Detroit Metro Airport. They're redoing all the concessions there, so please don't throw things at us, but we were the ones that made the Starbucks close. So this is the new piece that's going to go there. So no more Starbucks for you unless you go way down to the ends of the concourse, but this is going to be the new piece. And if you really like coffee, supposedly Illy coffee is the best anyway, so that's what's going to be there come this fall. So that's under construction now if you've been at McNamara lately. Some more work that we're doing down in Myrtle Beach, and we've got a couple of branch banks down there. A really progressive client down there. He's having a little hard time with the FDIC right now, but it may get off the ground eventually. This is the latest rendering for the bridge, so you can see it's changed a lot. And that's what happens when you do, public work, I guess. But this is, there's no more cafe, but these are the piers. They want to use them as fishing piers now. So they're supposed to break ground in November and really get started in earnest next year. So hopefully next time you guys look at our website, maybe we'll have some finished photos of this. This was a fun project. This is the Tribune building in downtown Chicago, and we were asked by Verizon Wireless to take a look at it and see what we could do. And we were told, we want this to be unbelievable. So we started looking at the front and all the different technologies. I mean, I don't know if you guys think about this or not, but Verizon, they're not a telecom company anymore. They're a technology company, and they sell everything from those, what are those GoPro things called or whatever? They sell everything from those to tablets and phones and everything else. So we were looking at projected pieces, and I don't think this would have ever gotten through the city of Chicago, but at least it was fun to do. One of the things that we've been doing a lot of lately, DaVita Healthcare. Unfortunately, that's kind of a commentary on what's going on in our society. They're a Fortune 300 company, and dialysis is growing at an alarming rate. And we are the prototype architects for them. So we've been doing DaVita clinics in a lot of different states, 22 states now that we're registered in and we're doing work in. But this is the prototype piece here for DaVita, and this first one is going up in Kansas City, Missouri. So we'll have some real photographs of that come this summer, I think, and we'll have those up on our website. So that's it in a nutshell. I wanted to kind of give you guys an idea of what we've been up to, some of the things that have led to where we're at now. We have a lot of fun together. We have foosball tournaments with HKS next door. We always win, of course. And we just have a great group of people. You can see we're up to 19 people now, and we're really enjoying what we're doing. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Hopefully I can do that without breaking it. Anybody has questions, I need you to raise your hand and I'm going to run up so that everyone can hear the question. I know there's got to be a few. While we're waiting, is there any type of project, any project in particular that you would just love to do? Like if you had your dream project, do you know what it would be?
Wow.
There we go.
Still on? Boy, I don't know. I think we've been trying so long to get into higher ed. I would love to see that 505 project go. I mean, it's an adaptive reuse, sort of. It's an office building right now, but that would be a really fun project, and trying to figure out that glass piece would be very interesting.
It looks like a fantastic project. All right, I gave you guys time. Who's got one for me? All right, all the way up, of course, it's all the way up in the top. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna jump over. Here you go.
I'm so dry.
So through your architectural designs, has there been any like aspirations in design that have led you away from architecture in terms of like product design or any other kind of design that you feel like you've, kind of just, I notice when like myself or my friends are designing, we kind of go off into tangents with other things as well.
Yeah, actually, you start thinking about a lot of different things when you're interested in design, right? And I'm not sure what happened, if it was completely the economy or if we just got interested in it at first. But so way back in '04, we really got slow. And we were looking at, we had done all our own websites and we do all of our own graphics work. So we thought, well, we can offer our services to other people, especially people that we know, right? So we built Sterling Millwork's website. We've done a couple others as well. Architectural Products, we did their website. So we've done things like that. And actually we've done some restaurant work, and we've developed their logo, we've done their menus, all that type of stuff. So yeah, we have branched out into other things beyond just urban design and architecture, that's for sure.
Okay, I didn't go to the gym today. Who else has one for me? I will come to you. I think I saw one over here. There's one in the front too, so I'll be back with you in a sec.
Thanks, Tracy. Gina, through your practice, is there a succinct way in which to identify sort of the design philosophy that goes through all the project pursuits? And then with that, is there anything that you could give as advice to the students, the sort of skill sets that you look for in the talented next generation within the firm?
Geez, Art, that was loaded. Well, I'm not the impetus necessarily behind all the design that goes in our office. As you guys might know, might not know, depending upon whether you're a student or not, but a lot of architecture firms will set up their partnerships based on areas of expertise. And my husband and I, his partner, who's not here, is actually our primary design guy. Ken is our technical design guy, and I'm more into marketing and managing, so I do a lot more of the graphics and that type of thing. But I also manage the office and manage the projects from a principal level. So I would say, as far as design philosophy, our approach has always been to look at each project with fresh eyes. And that was one of the things that drew the library director to us in Ann Arbor. She didn't just like we took them on a tour of some of our projects, and we took them to the recording studio. And she pulled him aside, and we didn't realize it because there was board members and everything with her and all this stuff. And she pulled him aside and she said, "What are they like to work with?" And he said, "Well," he goes, "I can tell you this." He said, "My acoustical engineer told me," he said, "you don't really need an architect that knows how to do recording studios. I wish they would have like broadcast this everywhere, right? Because everybody thinks that if you haven't done 10 of something that you really don't know what you're doing. But the point was that he was trying to make is he said, you need a good designer. So basically, in my opinion, what he was saying was you need somebody that's sensitive to what you want to do, because this was a dream project for this guy. He had always wanted his own recording studio. You have to be sensitive to what the people want to do, and you actually have to understand the problem. So if you don't understand it because you've never done one before, or because this is the first time you've done this typology, you really have to immerse yourself in it. And that's really what we do. The research really helps us. Like I said, you know, we've been able to take the Ann Arbor Library and just tell people, look, we can help save you money by doing this research. This isn't just something that helps us understand your project. This will actually help save you money. So we've been actually able to do that. As far as the skill sets and what we look for in people, I would say, I mean, there's sort of like a base idea of what everybody should come out of school with, right? You have to know the software. You have to understand how to work your way through producing either graphically or you know, documents and that type of thing. You don't have to know exactly what to do, but you have to have a foundation. And then really what you need to be is, in our minds, and we always look for this, is you have to be coachable. You have to be teachable. And you have to understand that you come out of school with a certain level of knowledge. And that's your foundation. And you're going to build on that the rest of your life. And that's what's important. And one of the things that we have realized in the last, I think, well, we had a young lady come to us from the University of Minnesota probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And she said, you know, they don't teach us AutoCAD or Revit or anything in school. And we were like, really? And we're like, so have you gotten into it? And she said, well, yeah, I taught myself AutoCAD. And we're like, well, okay, what about Revit? What about 3D and that type of thing? She said, well, I think she was just a sophomore at the time. She goes, well, I'm starting to get into it. And it's like, yes, you absolutely have to get into it. If they're not giving you the program, you have to figure out a way to get it on your own. And that's imperative. Because we are, at this point right now, we actually just interviewed a girl about a week ago. I don't know, maybe Monday. I don't even remember. But she came to us and she was really talented and she had a lot of good experience and she would have fit into our office really well. But she had no experience in Revit at all, and we just can't take the time right now and let her catch up. It's just not going to work for us right now. We're too busy. So I would say that's my 2 cents on that.
Who else? Anybody? There was half a question over here. We have one back here. Great.
Hi, Gina.
Hi.
I'm sure one thing that we all can agree on is the 3 stresses of architecture are deadlines, deadlines, and deadlines.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you incorporate new ideas and inspiration into your work without falling behind on the deadlines?
You know, one of the things that we try to take advantage of, and we've talked about this for a long time, and now that Mike is back in town, he probably will get back into it, but one of the things that we try to do is stay connected to the schools. The young people, the new thoughts, the ideas that are coming out of the schools are imperative to keep new life and new blood into your firms. And if you just get old and stale, I mean, your projects are going to get old and stale as well. You need everybody in the firm helps us stay abreast of what is going on out in the world. You can't do that as one person, or even just, 3 or 4 principals. You just can't. There's just too much going on out there. So all the young people that come into our office, we try to glean from them as much as they're gleaning from us.
Anybody else? There, we got one.
So the crazy woodworker you were talking about, that's John Urema, right?
How'd you know?
I've worked with him. He's off his rocker. But
Yes, he is.
yeah. Have you done follow-up work with him?
No.
Neither have I.
You can only take him in small doses.
Yeah. I was wondering about the difference in how your work has been received relative to, you do a lot of adaptive reuse, but it seems like you're getting into new builds more and more. And I was just wondering about the reception of projects where you've used native materials to the site or foreign materials.
I don't know that we've actually ever done a project where I would say we've used a lot of foreign materials. In fact, when Mike got to Cairo to present, we actually weren't slated to present our project for the Grand Egyptian Museum. They said, "Oh yeah, you guys are the ones we dubbed the organic people." It was everything about it was organic. It rose out of the sand. We tried to use indigenous materials, everything. That's really something that we feel strongly about. And in fact, one of the things that we did for so long was try to tell everybody, look, you don't have to use really expensive materials. You don't have to use foreign materials to the area, whatever. We use a lot of everyday, ordinary materials. If you look at our office, it's primarily multi-ply plywood, MDF, carbon steel. That's it. And drywall a little bit, but that's about it. And we feel very strongly about that it's not always the exotic or the glamorous. And it was funny because we've talked about this in the office as well. You don't do something just because you can. Vinyl tile that looks like wood, just because you can doesn't mean you should. So that's kind of where we stand on that.
Anybody else?
Excuse me.
Got one.
What's your least favorite and favorite thing about being an architect?
My favorite thing in the entire world about being an architect is actually being able to walk into something that you helped create. Like I said at the very beginning, this is not an individual effort. There are people in our office, people that were in our office before, that helped create a lot of the stuff that you saw tonight. A lot of the projects, everybody had a hand in it. But it's so cool to be a part of that. I can't think of anything else, except for maybe being a doctor and bringing somebody back from the brink of being really sick. That is got to be the most self-gratifying piece of being an architect that there ever has been. I can't imagine thinking of, see, that's the thing. You have bad days and you think, I'm gonna go mow lawns or flip hamburgers or something. And it's like, come on, you have those days. I know you do. But you're like, you know what? There's nothing I would really rather do. And even kind of maybe a mundane thing like that central maintenance hub, that's a cool space to be in. I would love to work in there. That would be awesome. My least favorite thing is when people devalue what we do. They don't find value in it at all. That's not only disheartening, but it just really, it's kind of like the same argument to me that people talk about when they talk about taking the art out of schools. It's the same thing. Yeah, we can have, pre-engineered buildings everywhere, and it could all be mundane and boring and cheap and everything, and yeah, we could maybe have more or whatever, but would anybody really want to worship there or live there or work there? That just, I don't understand that. Sorry, I'm really dry.
Okay, we have time for maybe one more. Anybody else have a question, a burning question? In that case, thank you guys for coming out tonight, helping us celebrate with Gina, and we hope you'll come back again next year.